Former Disney employee and conservative writer Peachy Keenan is blasting Disney's Star Wars strategy and says the company built the Disneyland Galaxy's Edge attraction around the wrong version of Star Wars from the start. You know, the people that did go and check out Galaxy's Edge, which obviously wasn't a lot of people, because it really just like flopped, like from the get-go, like out the gate. Just no one was interested, no one was having it. Apparently the tickets was something stupid. It was like 4 or 5 grand, something like that, 4 or 5 grand to stay in this like Star Wars like ship themed cruiser like hotel thing. Yeah, ridiculous, really ridiculous. Keenan, who says she was at Disney when the land launched and wrote marketing text tied to the ride's hotel marketing and website, described deep internal frustration over the direction of the project. When I say there was crushing disappointment, almost a feeling of betrayal that the whole thing was on the new IP and not the original IP, I am not exaggerating. Disney backed the new trilogy over the original. Keenan says Disney made a deliberate choice to build Star Wars Land around the sequel era instead of the original trilogy icons fans actually wanted, with the hopes fans would forget the originals. Well, they essentially just like copied the original trilogy for 2 films anyway, didn't they? You know. And you know what The Last Jedi is? A copy of Empire, sort of in a few parts. It is a copy of Empire in sort of the major sort of story elements. It's a complete copy of Empire. But, you know, Force Awakens is just completely just a copy of A New Hope. Although Force Awakens is the best one, and I don't mind it being like a soft reboot. I get it, sort of from a business standpoint, and sort of a, you know, getting the old fans reinvested, you know, that sort of thing. I kind of get it, so it doesn't really bother me. But then the rest of the trilogy is, you know, hot garbage. That doesn't really help things. Disney made the decision to invest this money in order to support the new trilogy, which they thought would erase the old one in the minds of fans. The level of hubris around this is one for the business industry history books. Absolutely, it definitely is. I think this will go. I think Disney's handling of Lucasfilm and Star Wars will go down in the history books. I genuinely think it will. Her comments go right at the heart of what fans have argued for years about Disney, Star Wars and Galaxy's Edge. That Disney spent huge money on a Star Wars and Galaxy's Edge where Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Leia and Darth Vader were mostly absent, while newer characters and Batuu took centre stage. Keenan also unloads on the sequel trilogy itself and says Disney wrecked the original heroes in the process. They made a trilogy that destroyed the original characters. They elevated an insufferably annoying Mary Sue Girlboss, added a pathetic loser, son of Han, a divorced Leia and Han, a disillusioned and bitter Luke, and then killed Luke, Han and Leia. She said, "Damn, that is savage. That is pretty savage." It's true though. It's true. The Post connects the land directly to Disney's larger Star Wars plans, with Keenan arguing the company tried to push the new trilogy at the expense of the characters that built the franchise. Yeah, I mean, we know this, really. We know this, you know, this was pretty obvious. it was obvious as soon as early as The Force Awakens that the new characters were going to get special treatment, and they were going to, kill off all of the they were going to kill off the original trio. That was all obvious from the get-go, from The Force Awakens. This just isn't, particularly new information, really. All of this was obvious from The Force Awakens, from the get-go. Keenan goes even further and says the fallout hit the people behind Disney's Star Wars era as well. Result: J.J. Abrams' career was finished as a filmmaker. Rian Johnson was wrecked. Kathleen Kennedy is finally out as head of Lucas. Chapek is out. Disney movies are garbage, she said. Wow, she really hates Disney, doesn't she? She's not happy with them. Fucking hell. The greatest entertainment IP ever created was lit on fire to appease the egos of the geniuses who bought it and thought they could outdo the original genius. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. They got their grubby little hands, their grubby little fingers, their grubby little mitts on Lucasfilm and Star Wars, and then they drenched it in gasoline and then lit the motherfucker on fire. They really did. Yeah. All for what? That's the question. All for what? Her post frames Galaxy's Edge as part of a much bigger collapse where Disney bet on replacing the old Star Wars with the new version and failed. Just recently saw it learned that Abrams is closing and downsizing his bad robot production offices in LA and moving to New York. I didn't know that. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, what has JJ done since like The Force Awakens? What's he done? He finished off his Star Trek trilogy, and then they brought him back to do Rise of Skywalker. What's he done since the Rise of Skywalker? Has he done anything since the Rise of Skywalker? I don't know. I don't think he has. I definitely haven't seen his name on anything since The Force Awakens. That's crazy. Wow, that is crazy. Wow. Yeah, that is proper crazy, man. Just whole career just destroyed from the sequels. I mean, not so much The Force Awakens, but The Rise of Skywalker, definitely. Yeah, that's crazy. That really is. Keenan also reacts to Disney now changing course with Galaxy's Edge and bringing back more familiar original trilogy elements. And now it's too late. No one cares that Darth will be walking around again to John Williams' score. The new Leia face character looks like Brenda from HR. Poor Brendan. Brendan catching... Brenda. Sorry. Brendan, not Brendan. Brenda. Catching strays. Shit. The comment comes as Disney is set to loosen the old sequel era setup at Disneyland's Galaxy's Edge, bringing in more classic characters and music tied to the original films. Yeah, all of this really is damage control, isn't it? All of this is damage control. But obviously, way too late. It's damage control, absolutely. And it's way too late. It's like 5 years way too late. 5 years too late, Lucasfilm is also releasing The Mandalorian and Grogu next month, and has Star Wars Starfighter releasing the following year. Yeah, I am intrigued about Starfighter, to be honest. I'm more interested in Starfighter than I am Mandalorian and Grogu, to be honest. Plans to continue the Disney Star Wars trilogy with Daisy Ridley as Rey are in doubt also. Recently saw the news that Disney passed on a Kylo Ren movie. They did. They passed on a Steven Soderbergh Kylo Ren movie, which could have been interesting. I know that news sort of received mixed reception. I would have been interested in seeing that. I think that would have potential, but obviously we're literally never ever going to see that movie. So yeah, and you know what, I don't think we're ever going to see the Rey movie either, to be honest. I don't think we are. I don't think we're going to see the Rey movie. We're definitely not going to see the Kylo Ren movie. I don't think we're going to see any of the sequel trilogy characters ever again. I don't think we are. I don't think we're going to see the sequel trilogy characters ever again, any of them. Don't think we're going to see that Rey movie. We're obviously not getting that Kylo Ren movie. What else? What else are they going to do? Sort of, you know, in that era, in that timeline. What else is there to do? Nothing. You know, nothing. And if they do move on to episodes 10, 11, 12, who knows what they're going to look like. I mean, you know, really, there is nothing. You know, there is nothing there. You know, I mean, Lucas said for, you know, I know he sort of went back and forth with it. I mean, his original plans, when he was doing when Lucas was working on the original trilogy, he had plans, outlines for 3 trilogies, but then by the time Jedi wrapped up, he was fucking exhausted and burnt out, and then took, you know, like 15, 16 years off before doing the prequels. And then once the prequels wrapped up, he did the Clone Wars, and then, you know, sold to Disney. Though he did hand them outlines he did hand them outlines for his version of 7, 8 and 9, his interpretation of 7, 8 and 9. But, you know, sort of before the Disney sale, he had been maintaining that there was no episode 7. You know, there are interview clips out there which are quite old now of him saying there is no episode 7, there is no live action story to tell on the cinema beyond episode 6, episodes theatrically speaking. When we're just talking about the movies, there is nothing after episode 6, and you know, we've always had the expanded universe, and he never had a problem with the expanded universe, but you know, theatrically speaking, when we're just talking about the films, there is nothing after episode 6, and I'm still not really bothered by that idea, to be honest. And I mean, there's definitely nothing after episode 9. I mean, what is the story? What is the story of 10, 11, 12? What is that story? There is no story there. There is nothing. There is nothing after episode 9. There is no story to tell after episode 9, if we're being completely honest. So, yeah. But all of this is pretty obvious, and it's been pretty clear to us for a long time. So, yeah. They fucked it up. They fucked up big time, but, you know, nothing new there. Nothing new there. We have known that for a long time. So, yeah.